Kidding? Just one shot?
They're not all zombies, Doug. How do you fight this thing?
Maybe we could drown it in A1 sauce.
Well, sometimes that is better. The person you put up there ain't the person that comes back.
It's a dance song to get down with. About 6 feet under. Get there.
Ooh, I love this song.
And now we come to the thrilling final episode of our radio drama.
Hello and welcome to episode 242 of the Rotten Views podcast. Thank you each and every one of you guys and gals for showing up each and every single week. If you're a new listener, I appreciate you giving me the time of day or evening whenever you're listening to this episode. And hopefully you guys will subscribe and come back each and every single week for new episodes. Make sure to check out that back catalog of episodes because we have a ton of great episodes. At least I think there's a ton. I hope there's a ton because we've done over 200 episodes. And from what I've seen in the comments and from the listener count going up each and every single week pretty much, it seems like you guys are enjoying it. And that means a lot to me because I enjoy doing this. So hopefully you guys enjoy listening to it as well. But before we do get too far into the movie at hand, to the episode at hand, let's do a little bit of housekeeping like we like to do each and every single week.
Housekeeping?
Don't think you're sleeping.
Housekeeping?
Could you come back in an hour?
Housekeeping, you want towels?
More towels. Need sleepy.
Housekeeping, you want mint for pillow?
Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God.
As always, if you guys could, make sure to leave a like down below or a subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, feel free to leave a star rating. I'm not going to ask you for a 5-star. If you want to leave a 5-star, that'd be awesome. I'd appreciate that. But if you want to give it a 3-star, 4-star, whatever it might be, a 1-star is fine too. I'll eventually put a curse on you. But that's besides the point. It's all in fun and games, of course. Unless I get a lock of your hair, then you're definitely getting a voodoo curse put on you. But that's besides the point. Let's have a fun time here. Let's not get too serious with everything. But yeah, if you're listening on Spotify, if you're listening on Apple, feel free to leave a review. And whatever podcast platform you're listening to it on, feel free to leave a review there as well. But the main thing that you guys can do that helps out each and every single week, just hit that subscribe button or hit that share button. That share button does so much to help out the podcast. Share it with your friends, your enemies, your coworkers, whoever, whatever, the alien next door or the weird person standing outside your window looking in at you. I'm sure they're not really there, but make sure to share it with them as well, because maybe it'll make them go away. Maybe if you pick a really bad episode, they'll just run away terrified. Who knows? It could save your life. Probably not, but that's besides the point. We've had a lot of coffee right now, and I'm feeling great. It's midnight, like always. We don't need sleep. Sleep is for the weak. But we're going to reel it back in. We're going to get off this little bit of rant and stuff. But yeah, like I said, if you're listening on any podcast platform, just hit that share button. It does help out a lot. It means a lot to me as well. And if you want more free content, make sure to follow me on all social media accounts at @Stefanstein. The links are all down below in the description, of course. But you can find us on anything and everything from Instagram to Facebook to Threads to X to TikTok. But the main thing we're pushing is that YouTube channel. We also have a Twitch channel, so if you want to subscribe to the Twitch channel, go right ahead. It would mean a lot to me. But if you want the most bang for your buck, which is also free, by the way, go subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have old episodes podcasts up there. I've been doing community posts. I've been doing live streams over there as well. We have various shorts and the weekly gaming video that drops every single Wednesday. We've been playing Gas Station Simulator. It's kind of fun, actually, to be honest with you. These simulation games are really weird, fun, and relaxing all at the same time, which is a nice switch up from Fortnite and other games that really pissed me off. But that's that's besides the point. So if you guys want to see me, run a Dusty Bowl gas station, feel free to go check out those weekly game videos. We have 2 episodes out right now. 3rd episode's coming out next Wednesday, and I don't know when this podcast episode's coming out, but we got a few episodes of Gas Station Simulator coming out, as well as some various gaming shorts, art shorts, and all other fun stuff. So definitely go check out the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the bell notifications. That way you get notified every time I post a new thing or go live on a live stream over there. But enough about that. Now let's start discussing the podcast at hand. We are watching a movie that's on Tubi. This is a first time watch for us, but this is your first warning. If you don't want to be spoiled on a movie that came out in 1996, I almost said 86. That would have been weird. But yeah, it came out in 1996. It's called Head of the Family. If you don't want to be spoiled on this movie, feel free to go pause this podcast episode now. Go find it on Tubi or Amazon. It's Tubi's free, so definitely go watch it there. Go watch it, listen to it, or just sit back, relax, listen to me talk about the movie, and I'll either make you really want to watch the movie, or you'll probably have enough of my crap and just be tired and not want to deal with the movie at all. I leave that judgment call up to you at the end of this podcast, or at the beginning of this podcast, depending if you stick around or if you go pause the episode. So, what we like to do for the podcast, I like to do for the podcast, there's no we. I talk about a movie from start to finish and hit all the points in between that interest me. So each and every single episode of the podcast is heavy on the spoiler side. Then again, not too many of these movies are new movies, so hopefully you guys have already seen them. If not, it's a fun learning experience, and maybe you'll learn of a movie that you really want to watch afterwards. Who knows? But back to the movie at hand, we are talking about the 1996 horror comedy Head of the Family. This movie has a 5.3 out of 10 on IMDb, 34% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 4.2 out of 5 on Amazon.ca. This movie was released on November 29th, 1996. It has a runtime of 1 hour and 22 minutes and is distributed by the Kushner Lock Company. Also, apparently 74% of Google users have enjoyed this movie, just so you guys are all aware. The description for this movie, as read from IMDb: the head of the family is literally that, a giant head on a tiny body, who fiscally controls the rest of his even more unusual family. Now we're going to get to the point where we're going to break down the director, the writer, and a couple of the stars. Obviously, we get a little bit of luck on this one because the director is also one of the writers. And of course, that would be Charles Band. And I'm pretty sure most people listening to this podcast already know who Charles Band is because we talked about him a few times here and there. But for you guys that might not know who Charles Band is, he was known for doing a lot of the full moon features. Most people would probably know him from the Puppet Master series of movies, but he's also, in 2013, he was the producer for Ooga Booga. He's also the producer for The Killer Eye and Evil Bong and Killjoy and Demonic Toys and Ginger Dead Man, and a ton of other movies. We actually did one couple weeks ago on the podcast, and I'm actually blanking on which one that is now at the moment. Oh yeah, it was hideous. The movie about the monsters that come out of the toilet or the septic system. That was an interesting movie. I actually didn't mind too much. Might be a little bit that I enjoyed it too much because of the secretary assistant lady. That's besides the point. You'll have to listen to that podcast episode if you haven't, or even yet go watch the movie because it was actually a pretty fun movie. But he's best known for doing these like stop motion little monster movies, and it's got practical effects, but none of the effects are really that great. But it's bad movies, but they look fun. We could talk for days about Charles, but we're going to skip on from him a little bit right now because we've already talked about Charles numerous times on various episodes. So we're going to talk about the other writer for this one, and their name is Neil Marshall Stevens, who's known for being the writer for 2001 13's Ghosts. He was the writer for 4 episodes from 1988 to 1991 of the TV series Monsters, which I still want to do for the podcast or just watch in general because I've heard really good things about this TV show and I need to watch it. He was also the writer for 1998 Frankenstein Reborn, as well as the writer for 2010's Hybrid Killer Car movie. I still haven't seen that one actually, to be honest with you, and I saw the trailer for it when it first came out and I'm like, I really want to watch this because I love horror movies where the vehicles come alive and start killing people. I just never got around to it, and to be honest with you, and up till right about now, I kind of forgot it even existed. So now we're going to talk about 2 of the actors or other actresses in the movie. First one we're going to actually talk about is Blake Adams, who's playing the character of Lance. We don't know much about this character, of course, because we haven't actually watched the movie yet, so hopefully they're an interesting character. But other than that, they've been in a movie called Lethal Cowboy from 1995, playing a character called Cody, and then they have various TV show appearances here and there. He was on one episode of Criminal Minds, one episode of Quantico, Dark Prophet, Burn Notice, Justified, but other than that, doesn't look like he's really done too much work. The other person that we're going to discuss for this movie is Bob Schott. I'm not sure how to pronounce that last name, but he's playing the character of Otis. I believe Otis becomes like the main head of the family, but I could be wrong. We don't know yet, because like I said, we haven't watched the movie yet, so we're going to learn it together as we go. But he's also plays a character named Thorg in 1985's Jim Kata. It was Jimi Hendrickson in 1983's In the Line of Fire. He was Bodyguard in 1983 Shoot Fighter, Fight to the Death, as well as Raph in 1976 Up. Not the Disney Pixar movie with the house and the balloons. This is a different Up. I don't know anything about it though, so maybe it could be based off the same kind of story. Disney's good for ripping shit off, so who knows? Maybe if we ever watch that movie, we'll figure that one out. But for right now, we're not going to figure that one out. And of course, this movie has a tagline, and the tagline is read as Upset the Head and You're Dead. Pretty straightforward and simple. I gotta appreciate it. I gotta like it. So with all that fun stuff out of the way, this is gonna be your final warning. I'm gonna start talking about this movie from start to finish and hitting all the points in between that interest me. So if you don't want to be spoiled on a movie that came out in 1986, feel free to pause the podcast now, go check it out on Tubi, or just sit back, relax, listen to me talk about the movie. If you're at home, get comfy, get some snacks. If relax on the couch, the bed, wherever it might be. If you're at work, hopefully this helps you get through the day. And if you're in the car, like I know a lot of you guys are, just keep your eyes on the road, and hopefully you get to where you got to get going, and hopefully you arrive safe. And right now, we're going to get started on the podcast episode at hand, and we're going to hit play on Tubi, because that's where we're watching this movie, because Tubi is a great app. Sponsor me now, please. I would really appreciate it. I know it's not going to happen, but I can keep asking at least.
Presents Saturday Night at the Movies, the television series which each week brings you the finest in recent motion pictures. Tonight,
Holy shit.
You must have took a wrong turn.
Honey, there ain't no turns off this highway.
What was it, Lance? What did you see back there?
I saw the light, honey. I saw the light.
You've met my brothers and my sister, Mr. Bogan. I don't believe we've ever met. My name is Myron Stackpool. I'm the, pardon the expression, the head of the family. We Stackpools all have our peculiarities.
You made them folks downstairs go away. I want you to do the same thing for Howard Oates. You make him go away.
And you aren't at all concerned about my subjects down in the basement?
Letting you do what you do, just letting you stay around and keeping my mouth shut, that's a price to me. A man takes a risk, why he ought to get paid for it. Seems reasonable to me.
You press too hard and you make it worth it for me to employ desperate measures. I'm not normally a vindictive person, but in your case, I'm going to make an exception.
Bats flying at you. I mean, at first when I was younger, I kind of knew this meant like horrible movies. I was never excited, but now I'm kind of just like, this is brain rot. But I'm still really excited to see what they managed to come up with, because I'm assuming it's not going to be great. But I'm the type of sicko that enjoys bad movies, and I find them fun. But then again, in general, I try to always find a little bit of light in a movie, because I know a lot of time and effort usually goes into these. So hopefully I can find something redeeming out of it. So we got the movie starting out, and it's got some really happy, upbeat style music. And we just see this nice big old Victorian style looking house outside. And the intro credits are coming in, and then we just see head of the family on the front of it. And we're still just listening to this somewhat happy, upbeat music. Doesn't really know if it's going to set the theme or style for the movie, but it seems like it's going to be a little bit wacky. Then we finally start to pan in on the house, and we finally see someone coming out of the house. I'm not sure who the first one is. The first one might be Lance, and then we have Loretta, and I believe Otis, and the three of them are just kind of walking off the front porch, and they look like they're hypnotized, essentially, because they have just a 1,000-mile stare in their eyes, just staring off into the distance. Then we see this guy named Howie, or Howard, who's sitting at a bar, a diner, and he's dealing with Weasel, and apparently Weasel's going to get some drugs by the sound of it, because he's like, if such and such shorts me again, I'm going to kick his ass, and I'm also going to kick your ass as well. And then we see this old guy sitting at a table. He's like, oh, here comes the stag pools. I'm assuming that's the head of family people, because Otis is one of them, and then I believe the other one's Loretta, maybe, not too sure. Anyways, the old guy, though, what I want to mention, who the frig goes to a diner and has cereal as your option of food? I've never seen one restaurant serve cereal. Okay, so we see that the lady's name is not Loretta. That's a different character. This character's name is Ernestina, because Howie has a thing for her, because he's like, oh wow, she's real dumb. Well, she's real fuckable. So I guess Loretta is the lady sitting at the diner bar area, just relaxing. And apparently Howie has claimed her, because he goes up and grabs her behind. And he's like, you know what I like? She's like, fuck it. He's like, no, we don't use that word. That's not proper. And then we see Otis carrying a box of stuff from the diner with Ernestina and the other family member. And Howie's like, see you later, Ernestina. But then we cut to Loretta, and she's in the back room banging the owner of the diner. So the owner of the diner, we find out, is Lance, because she calls his member Little Lance, and she's riding it like the quote-unquote Harley, because that's why she apparently married Howard, was because he's stupid and he just had a nice Harley, but he also has a small dick, apparently, according to the lines that she's saying. Then Howard goes looking for Loretta, because he's like, you take too long in the bathroom. He goes to the women's bathroom. Of course, she's not there. So then he walks into the back room, and he walks into Lance, and he's like, is Loretta around here? He's like, yeah, she's in the employee bathroom back around the corner there, because the women's bathroom is clogged. Yeah, it's just clogged. And later in the night, Lance is looking at some paperwork, and Loretta comes over and be like, Lance, Howard asked to see you, and they're acting like it's a big deal, like Howard's this big badass. Like, yeah, sure, you're screwing the guy's wife, but I wouldn't be too scared of him, because he seems like he's a dipshit, but that's just my personal opinion. So then Loretta and Lance decide to just play things cool like a cucumber. Maybe he doesn't know that we're actually screwing in the back room all the time. Anyways, I guess Howard's been sitting in the diner the whole time, because they never leave this damn diner, and I thought she had to take him to his home or something, but no, he's just sitting at a table. And while he's sitting at said table, he's got a gun and pieces, being like, you know what, I was trying to save some money, and I bought the thing in pieces, but now I gotta put the thing together, and I can't get the damn thing together at all because it keeps breaking on me. So then all three of them are sitting down at the table, and Lance just out of nowhere, he's like, Howard, I don't know what you've been hearing. And Howard's like, well, hearing what do you think I'm talking about? And Lance's like, nothing, I don't know nothing, hear nothing, don't understand, no, I'm stupid. He's like, oh yeah, you're being real cool as a cucumber, you idiot. So anyways, the reason why Howard wanted Lance to sit down is because Howard doesn't think Lance is making enough money running the diner the way he is. He's spreading it too thin. That's why apparently Howard thinks Lance looks a little sickly. He's like, I'll be your partner, we'll do half the business. I got a lot of business around here in town. Loretta, what's that? I'm working with all these other businesses. What's that called, Loretta? And she's like, you're a real shakedown artist. He's like, if I didn't love your big ass, I'd send you pack. So then Howard gets up and hands the paperwork to Lance, being like, all right, partner, we'll get back into work tomorrow, because I'm heading out here with my lady. And she's like, yeah, I guess I'm the Duchess of the Dumpster. And he's like, I'd really send you packing if I didn't like you, lady. And then later in that night, Lance is looking over some paperwork, and one of the waitresses comes up to him and be like, you gotta drop Loretta, it's gonna cost you nothing but trouble and pain. He's like, I can't, it's just like fucking a firecracker, it's just my journey to do it. And then sometime later in that night, and we just see a car shaking, and I thought it was Loretta and Howard, but no, it's Loretta fully naked riding hitting Lance, but he's still like 90% clothed. Not that I'm complaining by any means, but it's kind of funny that she would get fully naked and he can't even take off his suit jacket. And then we cut to the family and we just see Otis moving this big ass gated fence piece that's got shrubbery all over it, and it's just middle of the night. And then we see this guy driving a truck. It's middle of nighttime still, and he's all confused because he comes up to where that gate was that Otis was putting across the road. It's pretty much one of the off-ramp gates that you would put across the road to say, hey, this part of the road's cut off. So the guy's like, oh, well, I'm going to just turn here and go down that way. So then we see Lance and Loretta driving down the road, and Loretta's trying to convince Lance to just shoot Howard in the back of the head one of the nights at the camp, trailer park area. I don't know why that was so hard to say, but apparently they live in a trailer park. Shocking. And Loretta's like, everyone hates him, he'll be fine, just shoot him in the head. And he's like, no, it's a little bit more complicated than that. A bullet lands in someone's head, they're probably going to come looking for people, and most people probably think we're fucking around, so they're probably going to come after us. And as they're driving down this road, they got slam on the brakes because that fence piece is across the road again, or still across the road, and they're like, this is weird, somebody had to move this here because there's no other roads around here. I don't understand why it's here in the middle of the road all of a sudden. So then Lance goes off in the woods to go explore and see why. As Lance is peeking through this bush, he randomly sees a house. I'm assuming the original house from the beginning of the movie, of course. And we see the guy from the truck, the little massive truck. And Otis is taking his head and smashing it into the side of the truck. And we just see that guy being dragged into the house. And Lance is still watching, being like, that's probably not good. So then Lance nonchalantly walks back out of the woods and gets into his car and be like, alright, sugar, we gotta get going. And she's like, you're just gonna leave that thing in the middle of the road? Somebody could get in an accident. He's like, somebody already probably has gotten into an accident, but we are gonna go because I saw the light. So he just drives around the fence and drives away, and now it's the next day. It's the next day, and that guy that was driving the truck isn't actually dead. He's waking up now. He's in a lot of pain, though, because his head was smashed into the back of a truck numerous times, and we see Otis just staring down at him, but then we also see one of the other family members staring down at him. He was the guy that was wearing sunglasses at the beginning of the movie, and his eyes look like they're about ready to bulge out of his damn skull. We see that the young guy's in a hospital gown as well, and then we hear someone talking to him from off on the side. And he's like, don't worry, young man, I've done this numerous times before, and everything will be fine. And Otis just grabs his head and holds it down, as we hear like a bone saw starting to go off. We can just assume that it's the head of the family talking to him, of course. And then as the sounds are echoing through the house, we then see like the basement has like a jail looking medieval style, big brick walls all over the place, and there's a bunch of people all in white gowns that are covered in blood, just bleeding from various spots on their body. And clearly, they've been down there for a while, kind of like the people under the stairs aspect, but they're not as pale. So Lance is in the diner. He sees the Stackhouses. I believe that's what their last name is. We find out that Wheeler is the main guy with the glasses that has the eyes popping out of his skull, and Lance goes to talk to him. Of course, they won't say anything to him. He calls them the R word, which I'm not going to repeat on the podcast because I don't want to get blacklisted. Lance keeps talking because he wants to try and convince them to kill Howard, but then Otis just grabs him by the throat. He's like, I saw what you did with the young guy. You don't want to do that or the cops are going to get involved. And then they just let him, or Otis lets him go, and they just walk away down the street. And then he's like, one of you guys is going to have to talk to me sooner or later. I'm not going to stop until you do. And then next thing you know, we see Lance is asleep in his bedroom, face down. And then Otis just comes in and just rips him off the bed and throws him up against the wall. And the next thing you know, we see Otis outside dragging Lance into their home. Lance is still in his like silky looking pajamas, and he's inside the house, and he's like, alright guys, we're all here. And then he sees Wheeler without his glasses on for the first time. He's like, oh boy, those are some really big eyes you got there, buddy. And then the head of the family appears, and he gets spooked. He's like, hi, how's it going? And then the head of the family says, we are pretty peculiar over here. We're all born from the same eggs, just so you're aware. And the head of the family is like, so do you know what you're looking at, Lance? And he's like, some freaks from a freak show? He's like, no, you're looking at something very spectacular, something abnormal and unordinary. The head of the family goes on about each special power that each of them has, and he mentions that Wheeler has like the nose of a hound dog, and in the eyesight of something, and Lance just cuts him off, and he's like, yeah, I get it. You're the smart one because you got the big head. So then Lance starts having a conversation with the head of the family, being like, yeah, such and such fella might have seen a roadblock, and then, I don't know, saw maybe Otis smashing someone's head into the truck, and maybe such and such also saw the license plate, and you probably got big swampland behind, big enough to hide a vehicle, or maybe say vehicles, so said person could probably go to the police unless somebody else wants to help him solve one of his own problems, and then we'll just call it even. And they're talking about what happened, and the head of the family is like, do you want to see what happened to said gentleman? And Lance is like, no, I have no need to. He's like, well, just go over there to the intercom and press the third button. You'll be able to hear what happened. He's like, but I told you, no, I don't care what happened to him. I just want you to do my job for me. So that's where we find out that the head of the family is on the search for the best body that can handle his full brain capacity, because he says most people die with half a brain and live a better life, and he's got a full brain. So he wants to find the perfect body to transfer his brain over to. That way he can become the perfect human or monster, whatever way you want to look at it. So Lance is like, so I know you have probably a whole fleet of cars in the back. You probably don't want cops looking around, snooping around the house, because you made those people go away, ? I just want you to do the same thing to Howard. And if you don't, then you guys are going to be in a world of pain. He looks over at Otis being like, don't smack me. And then he's like, so, do we have a deal? And then we see Howard sitting at the diner, eating some food, looking off at the radio or maybe a TV that's off in the corner that we don't see. And then, of course, we see Lance railing Loretta in the back room again. And, of course, while they're doing it, he's obviously telling her about the plan that he has and that she needs to be, out doing her nails or hair. That way people know where she is. That way she's not getting blamed for it. And she's all excited now that Lance is her knight in shining armor, as she liked to say, and is ready to save her from the dirtbag that she married. And then we see said dirtbag, Howard, riding his bike down the road at nighttime when he runs into Ernestetta, whatever her name is. He's like, oh, well, what do we have here? He gets closer to her, and then Otis pops out from behind a tree and smashes his face up against the tree. We see Lance's room. It's really weird. It's like a lime dull green, and his bed is in the corner of the wall, a circle headboard. But anyways, he's trying to be like that pimpy looking guy. Anyways, his door starts to rattle, and he gets all scared, so he pops up out of bed with two guns. But it's just Loretta. He's like, oh man, he scared me. I didn't know what was going on. So then Lance is talking to Loretta, and he's like, I got the stag pools. That's the head of the family. And he's like, I got them by whatever short things they got. I don't know what short things they got, but I realized they got a lot of money, and I'm going to take them for all their money. But Loretta, you can't be also hanging around too much because, I can't let people know what's going on. And then out of nowhere, they just jump in bed together and just get at it like rabbits. That's all they do. And then we see Otis. He's walking around that dungeon-looking area, and he's handing out potatoes to everyone, because everyone gets a raw potato, and one guy goes to take 2 potatoes. He's like, no, 1. And then the guy starts freaking out and just chucks his potatoes because he's not all pissed off. So then we see Lance talking to that family, and apparently the part of his deal was to give back this letter. This letter is to a lawyer, and it pretty much says, if I go missing or I don't respond, you hand this letter over to the authorities, and an investigation will be done. Of course, Lance, being the slimy douchebag he is, he's not going to hand over the letter because he's still going to try and use it as blackmail on the family. And Lance is like, you know what? My mom always told me never to slaughter the cow, so I'm not going to bleed you dry, Myron, because Myron's the head of the family. He's like, I'm just going to use it for a little bit, take what I need. I'm going to let you, stay alive and let you still have some money to your name, but I'm going to need some more money for all the things that I need in life. Of course, the head of the family, Myron, tells him what drawer to grab the money out of, and Lance's like, pleasure doing business with you. I will be back next week to do another payment. Myron, don't worry, don't stand up. I know you're in the wheelchair. I'll see myself out. Don't worry about it, buddy. And then after Lance is gone, Myron's like, you know what? I'm going to cut that grin off of that smug's little face. It's going to be a fun time. And of course, we have Lance sitting behind the diner bar, and we have one of the waitresses there, the one that was trying to warn him earlier. And Loretta's on their side of the bar being like, yeah, I haven't seen Howard there in a while. Called the police to let them know he's missing, but, apparently didn't care too much. And then they just act like they're discussing that, oh, I didn't know that your husband and you were having so many issues. It's kind of weird, huh? And while this whole thing's going on, we also see Wheeler outside the wall of the building listening in, because we can just assume that Loretta's going to be going missing probably. And then we cut to what I'm assuming is his place, because it looks like the same wall. But of course, they're naked in bed together, drinking some champagne or something. And he's like, yeah, there's going to be more where this comes, baby, from Mr. Big Brain. And of course, Wheeler's outside the house now listening in. And then we cut to the head of the family. He's like, I'll keep talking, you stupid son of a bitch. You just wait. You and that powder puff whore of yours are going to pay for this. Then Lance is talking to that main waitress, Susie. He's like, how would you like to run this place, Susie? And she's like, more than I already do. He said, no. I'll make you a solid partner. I'm thinking about, taking off a little bit. Got some other things I want to deal with. I just feel, you'd like to be in charge of the diner. Make the changes that you want to make. Be a boss. Be like the main person here. So then after he's done talking to her, he's like, you need to think about just ponder it a little bit. I gotta make an important phone call. So then he calls into his lawyer, and apparently the secret code is the name of his mother's dog when he was a kid, and it was Elvis P. Rassley. And they're Wheeler's outside the building, of course, listening in, and of course the head of the family knows it now as well. So now it's that keyword that they can call in so that, if he does go missing, the lawyer will never really know. We see Wheeler and Otis outside the office, like he's at the secretary desk for the lawyer, and the secretary's like, he doesn't see just anybody, and if you don't have an appointment, he definitely won't see you. And then Otis just literally punches her in the face, and then they break into the lawyer's office being like, we need to talk to you a little bit. So then Otis grabs the lawyer's hand and gets ready to break his finger. He's like, all right, I'll get the letter. It's in the safe. Just, spare me. Don't hurt me, please. I'll grab it. So then he grabs the letter out of the safe and hands it to Wheeler. And then Wheeler takes off his glasses to read the paper. And the lawyer's like, oh, what the hell are you? What's wrong with your eyes? And he's like, what about copies? He's like, no, those are copies. Of course, they don't believe him, so they start breaking some fingers, and then they finally get 3 copies out of them. And then as they're leaving the lawyer's office, and they walk past the secretary, her desk, all you see is her feet just sticking straight up in the air, because she's knocked out cold, stiff as a board. So we cut to Lance and Loretta doing it again in the back of the diner, and he pretty much asks her to marry him, and she's all excited to be like, let me see the ring, let me see what you got. And he's like, well, actually, at that moment, I don't actually have a ring yet, because, I didn't want to get you one that you're not going to like, and then you're going to be stuck with it. She's like, oh, well, that's real practical, thanks for wrecking the moment. And he's like, alright, you can punch me right here in the heart. So she literally decks him in the chest. She's like, okay, wasn't expecting you to hit me that hard, bitch. Then the waitress calls Lance out, because the phone is for him. He goes and answers the phone. It's the head of the family being like, you're going to be receiving a delivery tonight. Make sure you're alone. And then they just hang up on him. He's like, okay. Of course, he's on his bed talking to Loretta on the phone. And the door opens up and Ernestina comes in and hands him some money and then drops her purse. And he's like, you dropped your purse? And then next thing you know, she takes her top off. And she's very well and down in the upper portion of her body, and of course they start doing it, and then out of nowhere she drops down, and Otis just appears behind her and just decks him. And then next thing we know, we see Otis is in Loretta's room, and she's rolling over in a nightgown. Her boob pops out. He's like, oh, pretty girl, and he starts rubbing her head, and she wakes up being like, what are you doing here? He's like, Otis, not her, pretty girl. And then we cut to the head of the family being like, Otis won't hurt. Otis is gonna do what that pea-brain's supposed to do, or I'm going to cut his face off. And then we cut to the head of the family sitting in his little dungeon testing area, where we see Lance is hooked up to the table, laying upside down. He's like, clever little call you had there. He's like, you found the letter, huh? He's like, yep. Wheeler was listening from the alleyway outside. Lance's like, yeah, he sure does have really good hearing, huh? So then Lance's like, not so fast there, Myron. You think everyone else is stupid, but other people know about this, and you better not hurt me or Loretta, or there's gonna be some serious consequences. We have some bickering between the two of them, and Myron's like, no, I'm not gonna let you free, Lance, because, you're gonna have to pay for all this crap. Lance's like, you should never cut off your nose before your face, and especially for you, because you got such a big head. So then Myron threatens to torture Loretta, and Lance is just like, no matter what I say or don't say, the things are going to turn out the same way. So why don't you go fuck yourself, big brain? And Loretta's like, Lance, please, can you talk to him so we don't die, please? So then as Otis is getting ready to take away Loretta to get her ready for the experiment, she's like, I have a confession to tell you, Mr. Bighead. I've always been really attractive to big brain, intelligent men, just so you're aware. So then she's like, it's not just the physical thing I'm looking for. I like the intellectual and the spiritual thing as well. He's like, so I excite your spirits? And then Lance's like, you're making a fool of yourself, Loretta. She's like, shut up. Would you shut up? Loretta starts taking out her boobs because she's still in her nightgown. And she's like, I just want to be close to you, honey. And the head of the family's like, you're not taking advantage of me, are you? Because nobody's ever talked to me like that before. I've been very lonely. And then he goes in to kiss her. And it's the most disgusting tongue action I've ever seen in my life. So I was wrong. He's not going in for a kiss, and I don't know if his tongue got really long or if it's just a camera angle, but he licks her boob, and he's like, so you don't have any other motives behind this, do you? He's like, no, I just want to be close to you. All of your brain and your intelligence. And then he's like, you know what? I'm actually just too busy to have a girl with me because, with my ongoing plans to take over the world and everything, I don't know how I can make time for you. So he's like, well, back to the torturing that we had planned. So, why don't you go with Otis and we'll get ready to watch this play that I've been wanting to reenact. So we find out that Loretta's going to play Joan in this play. It's going to be a one-time only feature because she's also going to die in the play as well. So we see this play starting because he's got this whole theater set up inside the house. And of course everyone in the play is part of the slaves that are from the basement, and they have enough comprehension to say some lines apparently, but the lead actress isn't able to anymore because she just keeps saying snow. So that's where Loretta comes in. And we see Loretta being brought out by two of the other slaves, and she's got a collar on now too, and apparently she doesn't read her lines. She gets shocked because it's like a dog collar. And the head is like, you read page 1, please. And she just looks over at Lance, and he just shocks her again. And apparently in this play, she's got plead guilty to the crimes of witchcraft. And of course, at the beginning, we saw a cross set up, and there's going to be a burn pile. And of course, obviously, we can assume she's going to be put on the cross and burnt alive, because that's going to be part of the torture. Loretta says a line wrong, so she gets shocked. And then Myron, the head of the families, asks Lance, how is it so far? How do you enjoy the play? He's like, well, those handicapped people are doing a better job of reading the lines than Loretta is. And then we see her being tied to the post of penance and getting ready to be burnt as a witch in this play. And then, of course, they rip off her clothes, and Lance just tells her to hang in there. And she's like, if I get free from this, I'm going to kill you, son of a bitch. And she's reading the play, and she reads the part where flames will consume her. And we look over and we see one of the slave guys lighting a torch, and she's just like, Lance, I need help. And Lance is like, I want to, set fire in her. You're probably going to wreck some of her house. She's like, no, don't worry. I have the whole stage fireproof. There's vents there to take the smoke away. There's fire extinguishers. Nothing's going to be permanently damaged. Aside from Loretta, of course, she's going to be burnt alive. So then we see them set the stage on fire, and Loretta's screaming because of the fire. And then Otis is watching, and you can see his facial expression changing because he just keeps repeating, pretty girl, not hurt. And he keeps getting zapped by Myron, but he's fighting through the brain control. And we see Otis get Loretta off of the flaming cross post, and he's carrying her off down some stairs somewhere. We see Lance trying to get away, and Wheeler starts to choke him out, but Lance starts to poke him and gouge him in the eyes. Of course, big target, so that's fair. And then we see Otis carrying Loretta through the basement area, through the dungeon, and they walk by Howard, and Howard's like, Loretta, what going on here? Then we see Myron trying to wheel away in his wheelchair, and Lance catches up to him. He's like, you can't be taken away just like that, buddy. You can't be just running away from your play. What are you doing? So he grabs his wheelchair, and then Myron's like, get your hands off me, you white trash. He's like, you've ever been on a roller coaster before, buddy? Let's go on a roller coaster. So then Lance takes the wheelchair over to a staircase and literally just hucks Myron down the stairs. Then we see Lance down the basement looking for Loretta. He runs into Howard, and Howard's like, what the hell is going on around here? He's like, beats the hell out of me. I have no idea. Of course, Lance gets distracted by Ernestita down in the basement as well. And then Wheeler comes in to attack him. And then we see both of them knocked down on the ground. And then Ernestita's holding Myron, the head of the family, as he's slowly bleeding out of his mouth. And next thing we know, we see Otis still carrying Loretta outside because he went out the secret back escape. And now they're at the front of the house looking in, and the whole house is starting to go up in flames. So then Loretta's like, oh great, no Howard, no Lance now. What's pretty girl supposed to do? And Otis is like, pretty girl. And Loretta's like, yeah, sure, you Tarzan. Don't you do anything. Don't you do anything now. So Loretta has the idea to marry Otis because Otis is the only last Stackpool. And apparently the Stack have money. So then next thing you know, we see them both getting married at this little reverend spot somewhere. God knows where. And she's like, I say I do. And then she's like, Otis, make sure you say I do. Come on, say I do. So then Loretta's like, don't worry, Otis. Me and you are married now. Don't worry. I'm going to be real sweet for you. And I'm going to take care of you. And everything's going to be great. And she starts to laugh. So then Otis starts to laugh. But Otis has never laughed before. So he starts going crazy with his laugh. And then Loretta just stops laughing. And they're just staring at him and be like, oh yeah, he's a little bit crazy. And then he laughs some more. And the outro credits start to roll. And that's the end of the movie. Alright, well that brings us to the end of this movie. It was an interesting movie. Unique, definitely a different premise. Was it better than Hideous? I don't think so. It's hard to tell. I actually, honestly, to be honest, I totally forget what I gave Hideous. But for this one, I like the aesthetics. I like the head character itself. Look kind of silly and fun. It reminds me of MODOK, actually. And I like MODOK as a comic book character. So, kind of like this. Kind of enjoyed it. On the rotten scale of 10, I'm going to give it a solid 6. I thought it was fun. I'd watch it again at some point in time. Not anytime soon, by any means. But I thought it was decent nonetheless. Which brings us to a point in time where we got to pick what we're going to be watching next week. This is, I feel like I've seen this movie before, but I can't remember. This one's also on Tubi, so you can watch it ahead of time if you really want to. This one's from 1990. It's a horror movie for an hour and 30 minutes runtime. This one is The Suckling. I feel like I've seen this before, but it popped up after the head of the family. So I figured, you know what? I like the cover image of it just because it looks like a stupid design, and I feel like, you know, might as well watch it because it could be fun. Could be a good one. Could be my highest rated episode. Who knows? This could be too. Who knows? I guess we'll have to wait and find out. But with that being said, make sure to check out the outro band, Toronto-based horror band Blood Opera. All their links are down below. You can find them on any music app, but I personally check them out on Spotify. But they're also on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere and everywhere. Definitely go give them a follow, share, all that other fun stuff. And as always, you can find all my links down below at Typhonstein. Follow me on all social media accounts, whichever ones you want to. We're on pretty much anything and everything. We're on Threads, we're on X, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on TikTok. But the main thing we're promoting the most is the YouTube channel. Definitely go check out that YouTube channel. We got the weekly game video dropping every single Wednesday. I have community posts. I have shorts. I have drawing videos. We have pretty much anything and everything. We also do live streams over there, so definitely go check that out. Once we hit 1,000 subs, going to be giving away some free artwork, so definitely go check that out. Go like, subscribe, all the other fun stuff, and I'll talk to you guys all later. Peace!